Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we continue with the intense and heart-pounding story filled with emotion between CEO James and LyTuDiep. In the previous episode, we witnessed a dangerous turning point. Diep was forced to flee into the deep forest on a cold, dark night after discovering that she was being hunted by John's men, a ruthless villain who would stop at nothing to achieve his goals. As soon as James received the news, he didn't hesitate for a second. He rushed into the forest, risking everything to find her. Not only that, he immediately contacted Tung, his trusted partner in the police force, to mobilize additional support. However, the forest where Diep was hiding was vast, rugged, and full of dangerous traps. Even though James had called for reinforcements, even though he stayed up all night, crossing streams and climbing treacherous cliffs, all efforts so far have been in vain. Diep's whereabouts remain a mystery. Not a single footprint, no clear trace to follow. Will James be able to uncover a clue before it's too late? Can Diep, alone in the heart of the forest, gather the courage to overcome fear, exhaustion, and the freezing darkness closing in? And John, the merciless villain who is getting closer, will he strike again with even more cruelty? All will be revealed in today's video. Don't take your eyes off the screen, because even the smallest detail could be the key to unlocking the bigger mystery behind it all. Be sure to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of the upcoming twists in this journey. James searched for Diep in utter desperation. He followed every faint trace, pushed through winding trails and thick underbrush in the vast and shadowy forest. Every place he believed Diep might have set foot, he went without hesitation. Even when his feet bled, and his vision blurred from exhaustion and fatigue. All day long, under the scorching sun, and then through a chilling rainstorm, James never stopped moving. He wandered the forest without rest, driven only by a fragile hope that Diep was still alive, and that she was waiting for him to find her. But as night began to fall and his strength was completely drained, James collapsed beside a small stream. His eyes closed, his lips cracked and trembling, yet he continued to whisper in delirium. "Diep, where are you? Please don't leave me. In a dreamlike state, drifting between reality and illusion, memories of Diep played in his mind like a slow-motion film. Her radiant smile, her small hand always clutching his each afternoon. The quiet evenings they spent together under the porch roof. Those memories were the only things holding him back from slipping away completely. And then, in that fragile moment between life and death, fate smiled upon him. An elderly woman who lived near the edge of the forest and often ventured into the mountains to gather herbs, happened to pass by the stream and spotted James unconscious on the ground. Without hesitation, she splashed water on his face, and with all her strength, helped him back to her modest wooden hut nestled on the mountainside. That night, she cared for James with wholehearted devotion, as if he were her own son. Though they were strangers, she boiled water, cooked porridge, covered him with blankets, and watched over his sleep throughout the long night. When James finally awoke the next morning, his eyes opened in surprise. Looking around the small hut, he saw the elderly woman quietly sitting by the fire, gently stirring a pot of bubbling porridge. He was overwhelmed with emotion. He slowly sat up, his voice hoarse but filled with gratitude. "Thank you. If it weren't for you, I might have never left that stream alive." The old woman smiled warmly, her eyes glinting with empathy. "Heaven must still be watching over you, to let someone find you in time. But if the girl you're searching for is that important, then you can't give up, you hear?" James clenched his fists, holding on to his resolve. "I won't stop, even if I have to turn this whole forest upside down. I will find her. As soon as he regained his strength, thanks to the elderly woman's devoted care, James set off again. At that moment, only one thought filled his heart. He had to return to the couple's house, the last place where Diep had been seen, to see if she might have made her way back there. On the way, James's heart pounded with a mixture of hope and anxiety. He kept wondering, if Diep had escaped, would she have chosen to return to the safest place she knew? Could she be waiting for me there? But the moment he stepped through the gate, his hope collapsed. The house was still and quiet. No sign of Diep. Only the elderly couple, who had taken Diep in during the early days of her escape, were sitting on the porch with worry etched across their faces, their eyes constantly scanning the road as if waiting for someone. When they learned that James still hadn't found Diep, they were visibly shaken. Heavens, you mean that poor girl is still lost in the forest? The woman said, clutching her chest, her voice trembling. We can't just sit around like this. The man exclaimed, rising to his feet. I'm going with you to search for her. James was deeply moved by their concern, but he also knew how dangerous the forest was, and that someone needed to stay behind, just in case. He gently took the man's hand and shook his head. I'm truly grateful to both of you. But right now, my team and I will continue the search. Please stay here. If Diep returns, at least there will be someone here to take care of her, and let us know immediately. The couple exchanged a glance, then nodded quietly. Though their hearts were burning with worry, they understood James was right. Then go. Son. Bring her back. That girl's been through too much already. While James and the police force were pouring all their efforts into searching for any trace of Diep, in another part of the forest, John's henchmen, ruthless and cunning, had begun to sense that something was off. They quickly noticed an increasing number of unfamiliar faces in the forest, especially the presence of local law enforcement. They realized this was no longer a simple chase between a man and a woman. It had escalated into a full-scale manhunt. No longer daring to pursue openly as before, John's men withdrew into the shadows. But they hadn't given up. Instead, they changed tactics. Each one of them changed clothes, put on conical hats, and carried bamboo baskets, disguising themselves as local villagers out gathering herbs, foraging for bamboo shoots, or collecting firewood. Their faces showed nothing but indifference and gentleness, as if they had no idea anything unusual was happening. But behind those seemingly calm eyes lurked cold calculation. They split up, heading deeper into areas where they suspected Diep might be hiding. Every step, every glance was part of a silent trap they were laying in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. While James was exhausting himself searching for Diep in the depths of the forest, thousands of kilometers away, his mother, living abroad, received devastating news. She was stunned into silence when she heard that Diep, the woman she had slowly come to accept, the mother of her precious grandchild, was in grave danger and had gone missing in the forest. Without a moment's hesitation, she booked the earliest flight back to her homeland, bringing along the little boy, James and Diep's son, with the faint hope that by the time she arrived, there would be some good news. But when James returned, weary and alone, with no sign of Diep by his side, her world collapsed. She stepped up to him, her hand trembling. Where's Diep's son? Where is she? Why have you come back alone? James lowered his head, unable to speak. His eyes were filled with anguish, and in that moment, she understood everything. She staggered backward a few steps and collapsed right there in the courtyard, as the little boy's panicked cries echoed around her. James and the housemaid rushed to carry her inside. After a doctor was urgently called to examine her, she still hadn't regained consciousness, lying weak and pale on the bed, her breathing shallow, her face drained from unbearable worry. From a once strong woman, She had now become a mother overwhelmed with pain, terrified of losing her daughter-in-law, and watching the peace of her family unravel. The sight only deepened James's heartbreak. It felt as though he was carrying the weight of the entire world on his shoulders. The pain of Diep's disappearance, the fear and frailty of his mother, and the wide-eyed confusion of his little son, too young to understand any of it. Knowing he couldn't both continue the search and stay to care for his mother, James made a decision. He called Trang and asked her to come take care of his mother, so he could return to the forest with a clear mind and continue the search for Diep. James, once a busy CEO managing an entire corporation, had set everything aside. He ignored contracts, projects, and even critical meetings. At this moment, nothing mattered more to him than finding Diep, the woman he loved more than life itself. Together with the Special Police Task Force, he quickly formed a rapid response command unit, working in close coordination to devise urgent search and rescue strategies. Forest maps were laid out across the tables. Every wind direction, terrain slope, and cave system was examined and analyzed with meticulous care. And yet, time passed, and there was still no sign from John's side. No movement, no clues, not a single sound. That silence was what terrified James the most. He didn't know. Had Diep fallen into their hands? Or was she still hiding somewhere in the forest? Was she even strong enough to hold on, given her injuries? 2 days had gone by. 2 days that felt like hell. 2 days with no word, no voice, no familiar gaze from the woman he loved. James was falling apart. His body was weakening from sleep deprivation, from having eaten nothing but a few sips of water. And yet, Diep's image never stopped replaying in his mind. That clear, radiant smile when she first touched his cheek. The quiet sadness in her eyes as she cradled their son during a stormy night. The countless times they walked hand in hand through the little garden behind their house. Every memory now felt like a knife twisting deeper into his chest. James couldn't accept the thought of losing Diep. He couldn't bear the idea that all of it would become just memories. And so, despite everyone's advice, despite the dull ache in his body that had already brought him to his knees more than once, James ventured into the forest again. Alone, in silence, in utter desperation. No police officers followed, no radios, no backup, just him, and a love too fierce to surrender. With every step he whispered a silent prayer. Diep, wait for me. Wherever you are, I will find you. Will James be able to uncover the final trace of Diep deep within the vast forest? Or is it already too late? And has she fallen into the hands of those merciless men hiding in the shadows? Is love powerful enough to guide James through pain, exhaustion, and danger? Or will he be forced to face the greatest loss of his life? All of it remains a mystery. Stay tuned for the next episode tomorrow to witness the gripping developments ahead. And don't forget to leave a comment with your prayers and words of encouragement for James and Diep, to give them the strength they need for this difficult yet love-filled journey, everyone.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người ơi, hiện tại thì hôm nay kênh của mình đã lên video tập tiếp theo về câu chuyện của Diep và LyTuDiep rồi. Mình rất mong là sẽ nhận được sự ủng hộ của mọi người để mọi người ủng hộ kênh mình nhiều hơn và theo dõi kênh mình nhiều hơn. Mọi người ơi, thì hiện tại thì tung tích của Diep thì nó vẫn đang là một ẩn số và nó sẽ được tiết lộ ở trong những tập tiếp theo. Vì thế mọi người hãy theo dõi kênh của mình cũng như là bật chuông thông báo lên để không bỏ lỡ bất kỳ video nào mà kênh mình mới ra mọi người nhé. Và cảm ơn mọi người rất là nhiều vì trong thời gian qua thì mọi người đã ủng hộ cho kênh của mình. Mong rằng mọi người sẽ tiếp tục ủng hộ để kênh mình có thể phát triển và ổn định hơn. Hiện tại thì kênh mình vẫn không được ổn định cho lắm và mọi người có thể thấy là lượt xem hiện tại thì nó đang rất là sụt giảm, nên là mình mong được nhận được sự giúp đỡ và ủng hộ của mọi người nhiều hơn nữa. Nếu như mọi người yêu quý kênh cũng như là yêu quý Diep và Diep thì hãy chia sẻ video để cho những người thân yêu của mình cũng được xem mọi người nhé. Và bây giờ xin chào và hẹn gặp lại.